Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I'm continuing my series on angler profiles and the business of fishing and how fishing manufacturers and retailers and wholesalers and distributors and that whole food chain looks at us, the average angler, or more deeply by a segmentation and by demographics, who we are and how they market to us. And today I'm going to ask you the question, as I did earlier, are you the average angler? Well, today I'm going to ask you the question, are you prototyped or stereotyped as the traditional angler? And according to the study was done by Southwick Associates. It was presented by Rob Southwick. It was in the Fishing Tackle Retailer magazine, and it identified angler personas. Well, the study was actually done for the American Sport Fishing Associates, and I was able to print down the whole thing from their web. And credit to Southwick Associates and credit to American Sport Fishing Associates for this study. I'm finding it fascinating. I hope you're interested in it as well. And let's talk a little bit about that traditional angler. See how you line up against it. Maybe you don't define yourself about that. See how you're marketed to, or if you're looking to sell to them, what you might sell for, and see what the characteristics are. So first of all, the traditional angler kind of defines fishing as a lifestyle, and he loves to fish. He or she loves to fish. They want to, or they enjoy passing fishing along to future generations. So think about where you first learned to fish, who introduced you to fishing. And the traditional angler, for the most part, was introduced to fishing by a parent or a grandparent or another close family friend. Almost 90% of these anglers learn to fish from a family connection. They enjoy it. They are passionate about fishing. They're passionate about passing it on to future generations. And they have a heightened interest in conservation or preservation. And I would challenge many of the folks that are real collectors that you may fall into this category, preserving the heritage, understanding where you came from, and passing it along. They have avid participation rates in fishing itself. They have a high purchase rate for equipment. They are motivated by the love of fishing and the desire to pass it down to future generations. And they spend, and this is probably the marketing or the retailer's target audience, first and foremost, they are spenders. So who are they? Well, their average age is about 44. That's slightly less than the average. They average 40% female, which according to this study, the average angler was going to be 46% female, so this is slightly down. They have a higher income bracket than the average. About 40% of them have an income greater than $75,000. About 1/3 of them have a college degree. And interestingly enough, and I kind of found this one of those things, aha moments, 85% of the traditional anglers consider themselves intermediate above in skill. So they're not beginners, they're not novices, they consider themselves on the upper end, and 33% of them consider themselves advanced, with 14% of those folks considering themselves experts. So they take a joy in it, they fish a lot, they spend a lot, and they consider themselves above average in their skills. Over 90% of those folks, as I mentioned, were introduced to fishing by a close family friend, and they pass that influence on as they go with the next generations, their children or their grandchildren. 97% of these folks said they plan to go fishing in the next year. They're motivated by enjoying the outdoors, spending time with the family, and having a relaxing time while out fishing. Almost 90% of these folks have been fishing in the last year, and here's some startling numbers. 36% say they have been out fishing more than 50 days, and another 17% said they fished between 31 and 50 days over the prior year. Now, I think this study was probably pre-pandemic. I'm guessing it was based on 2019. Could be wrong. I mean, the pandemic actually saw an explosion in folks that were going fishing, but I'm thinking maybe it was pre-pandemic. So over 50% of these folks have been fishing at least 31 days in the prior year. And that means they're getting out at least twice a month. Twice a month, is that right? Yeah, probably closer to twice a month, 3 times a month. And in some, everybody's going weekly. When asked what prevented them from going fishing, interestingly enough, 50% said it was the weather, 20% said it was health reasons, and 20% said nothing prevented me from going fishing. So you really have an advocate, you have a group here that's really dedicated to it. And as I mentioned, they are a sales and marketing target. 50% of them said they spend over $500 or more in a year, and 25% of those say that they spent $1,000 or more in that given year. And at first I was wowed, and then I'm thinking the charter boat folks that I work with, well, their fare is probably $75 to $100 now, and you do 10 trips a year, there's your $1,000. But when you start to look at it, a lot of those folks were purchasing equipment, and 57% of them said they bought a reel in the past year. Think of all of us that have got reels that we grew up with as kids that we're still fishing today. These folks, it says at least half of them, 57%, bought a reel in the past year. And 61% of them purchased a rod. So if you're a seller, if you're a manufacturer or a distributor, you are targeting these folks because they're buying a lot of tackle, and they're buying it on the high end if they're spending $500 or more in a given year. Almost 60% of them said that they source from a local bait and tackle shop. And now these are, check multiple categories, so there is overlap. 65% say they buy from an outdoor specialty store like a Bass Pro or a Cabela's. 50% said that they buy from a general sporting goods like Dick's or Academy. And about 40% buy from a website, which I think is probably down from some of the other categories, so you'll have to see. And about 1/3 of them buy from a mass merchant like Walmart. Now, chances are when they're buying from Walmart, they're buying bait, they're buying hooks, they're buying general consumables, but they're probably not buying their rod and reel in that location. From a fishing standpoint, 85% of the freshwater fishermen or women say that they purchase or they pursue bass. And in saltwater, it really varies a lot by locale because the species are so different in Florida or the North Atlantic or the Pacific. So you had it pretty much an across-the-board kind of a thing. The reason that these magazines are spread out in front of you is that in media, they are very active in learning about fishing from television, from websites, social media, and print magazines. And these are just a couple, right? Bassmaster and Saltwater, Angler or Sportsman, and some of the other ones that are displayed there. But they're the targets. So if you're a manufacturer or a distributor, where are you advertising? That's exactly where you're going. The most influenced by friends, local fishing clubs, guides, and outdoor retailers. So I guess they want to keep up with the Joneses, if you will. They're going to talk to find the high end. They're going to listen to what can catch them more, right? So if they're fishing the baits, hard baits or soft baits or the like, they're likely to purchase based on a recommendation. If it's a rod or a reel and they belong to a local fishing club, chances are they're going to seek out advice. And there is a little bit of a social influence there going on in terms of what they buy. So do you think you're the traditional angler? There's other types of anglers out there, and we're going to introduce you to some of them in Rob Southwick's presentation. He calls them angler personas. I've been calling them profiles. But if you think you're the traditional angler, look out, because everybody's watching you. Everybody wants to know what your thinking is, what your predispositions are, where you like to shop, what you're shopping for, and they're going to target market you, particularly if you're on those social websites or subscribing to magazines and the like. You're going to see the ads because that's quite honestly where the money is. So the good news is only 1 in 10 are actually in that category, surprisingly, right? Only 1 in 10. So the questions that remain. So who's buying the inexpensive rod and reel combinations that you see from mass merchants or general merchandise shops? Who's buying those low-end reels on Amazon? It seems like we're flooded with those. Everything coming over relatively inexpensive, claiming high performance and ball bearings and all that other stuff. Who's buying those, right? I want to know, I kind of know, but I want to know what persona rents the rods and reels that I repair for the fishing reel, for the charter boat industries and the fleets. Well, if you want to know, I just encourage you to stay watching. So I hope you've enjoyed that persona. It's called the traditional. They spend high. They spend a lot of time on the water. They spend a lot of time with their family. The traditional tag comes from passing down the tradition, being interested in conservation, being interested in preserving the legacy of fishing, and probably may be a real collector, or at least have the stories or the folklore to pass down for the generations as well. Always interested in becoming a better fishing person, improving their craft and their skill, and not afraid to spend some money to go do that. And I'm just thinking as I said that, I had a conversation with Josh at J&H Tackle out on Long Island, goes back a little while, and Josh was featuring a Japanese-made frog lure that cost over $100. It was targeted at bass, and I said to Josh, I said, who do you sell these things to? He says, I can't keep them in stock because there's folks out there that are passionate bass fishermen, and if it gives them the edge, they're going to go buy it. And that just kind of sums up who that traditional angler is and some of the types of products that they fish. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you keep watching. There's 6 more of these. If you don't see yourself as a traditional angler, that's okay. There's no winners or losers, but there are ways to sell to each of them. There are ways we are categorized in the marketplace, and if you keep watching, you're going to learn some of the other categorizations, or angler personas, as Rob Southwick calls them. And you'll see maybe some of the things that you see in pop-up ads that show up as you're on the websites or that. You may start to see a reason why those things are targeting you. So please stay tuned, stay watching, stay safe. A special shout out to our folks that are keeping us safe during this pandemic, the first responders and the essential personnel. Thank you for what you do. And if you've used fishing as an escape mechanism during the pandemic, well, please stay fishing as well. So this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.